that race and we finally achieve something, right? But as achievers, you never stop.
Hello, everybody. It's Jake Senziano, host of Woodbrow Props Podcast, here with my co-host, the multi-family mentor, the coach, the chef, the father of six, the best-selling author, the G-Daddy. And I always scream for you, baby. We are here bringing the pain today. Gino Barbaro. Gino, how's it going?
I guess you did some peppermint schnapps today. Did a couple of espressos. I know you got some almonds on the side over there.
I don't even know what the hell peppermint schnapps really is. So don't put me there. All right? I just know it used to be my grandma's cabinet. So we'll leave it at that. So
I hope she had some Sambuca in there. You know, the Sambuca goes really well with the espresso, right?
I know.
Yes. I'm doing great, bro. How you doing?
Always making it happen, big man. We got a special guest today. Today's guest is Moneeka Sawyer, the Blissful Millionaire. We're going to have to unpack that one in a little bit. And host of the top-rated podcast, Real Estate Investing for Women. Very important topic. We have a ton of super qualified ladies on the team, so we'll make sure we get that over to them. Moneeka reached her financial freedom by turning $10,000 into over $5 million, working only 5 to 10 hours per month with very little stress. She is now on a mission to help as many other women as she can do the same thing. So without further ado, Moneeka, welcome to the show.
Hello there, guys. Thank you for having me. So nice to see you again.
Likewise, it is our pleasure. Now, we need to get into this whole 5 to 10 hours a month with little stress. So for so many of us, you know, especially myself, I felt like I was beating my head into a wall. I was carrying bags of concrete, trying to mow the lawn. That was not my story. And I know a lot of other people who are not as fortunate. So tell us about how you were able to strategically take a short amount of time early on and multiply smaller amounts of money into larger amounts of money. That's really the crux of this intro here that I can't wait to find out about.
Absolutely. So the very first thing that I just want to focus on is why I'm called the Blissful Millionaire. Bliss is such a weird word when associated with real estate. So I just want to clarify that. And that
it's a furniture store in Knoxville. It's all the fancy stuff. So I know this is going to be good. So.
Exactly. So bliss, from my perspective, is a deep sense of joy and contentment and the confidence that you can handle anything that comes your way. Now, it's about emotional mastery and emotional resilience. So the important thing to remember here is Warren Buffett has said that if you can't control your emotions, you can't control your money. So if we're talking about emotional resilience and emotional mastery, you can see that that's going to be key to creating wealth. Now, for me, bliss really has to do with keeping things very low stress, not taking too much of my time, and really supporting the joy in my life through the whole process, right? It's not just when I become a millionaire, right? It's through the whole process, because who you are at the end goal is who you were when you began and what you became. So becoming blissful through
Say that again. You went over my head here. So you know, I'm trying to keep up. I'm trying, but you're losing me in the woo here.
You gotta stop drinking the schnapps, my friend.
And it's not the Wu-Tang. I'm getting lost in the woo, and this is good stuff. I gotta hear this again. Something about the person at the beginning. I'm not the person at the end, and I'm just
something. Money is an amplifier, right? Whoever you are when you're poor is who you're going to be when you're rich. Does that make sense? We're going to be the same. We're going to be the same bones. We're going to be, you know, the same body, but we can change though, can we not? Who we become as we get rich is going to be that person, right? Mm-hmm. So, but what I want to say is this, if you're a grumpy, mean person when you're poor, you're going to be a grumpy, mean person probably when you're rich. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right? However, if you do focus on this bliss aspect and you bring yourself to that blissful level, then that's who you will be when you reach your goal. So the whole thing is a journey. So many people are like, I will be blissful when? I'll be blissful when I have $10 million. The point is to be blissful through the whole process so that when you're at the $10 million, you can be a blissful person. And then you can make a decision, right? At 10 million, you guys know this.
You got to work on yourself now though, right, Moneeka? Because here's the deal.
That's right.
If you're not working on yourself now, you get the money, you're going to become like the Scrooge Grump prick that nobody likes because you never worked on yourself prior to that.
Okay.
No, but you
look,
but here's the thing. If you're a miserable prick now and all of a sudden you get money, that's probably going to amplify the negative shit in your life. So you got to be constantly looking inward and working on yourself now. So when you do get to that point, that philanthropic, we're going to talk a little honeybee over there. We're going to talk about the bee, what you can do when you have the means. Okay. Because money is a great tool that you can do amazing things with, but you got to be right on the inside. Fair?
Thank you. Yes, you said that so much.
No, I'm just trying to
exactly what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I got you. No, you're at a higher level. I'm just trying to, us common folk down here trying to understand this stuff.
He's trying to dumb it down for me and Jake. And I think we're going to add one thing to this. One of our mentors taught, at least me, that he said some people are so poor, all they have is money. And I think that's one of the part of the problems is people, all they do is they focus, they're chasing the money. And it's an irony in life. When you become financially free, all of a sudden you stop chasing the money and you go from 1x to 5x to 10x. And it's so annoying and frustrating in life because when you're trying to get out of the rat race, you're doing everything you can to chase the money. But now as you become an entrepreneur and you are financially free, you start chasing the opportunities, and those opportunities lead to money, and you start chasing value and start creating value. So I'm sure you can speak to that a little bit also.
Inflection points of a higher level of consciousness. It's wild. It's totally wild. Yeah. It is.
Exactly. It is. And one of the things that I wanted to say, Jake, or Gino, this was so amazing that you brought this up. As achievers, so we're trying to get out of the rat race and we finally achieve something, right? But as achievers, you never stop. You get that goal and then you're like, oh my gosh, I want this goal. Oh my gosh, I want this goal, right? And so if you don't enjoy the journey, you never get to satisfaction because you're always chasing the next thing. The other thing about being in this blissful space is that there is a time when enough is enough, right? Like, okay, so I'm worth this $1 million. I could work really hard and get to that next level, but is this enough for me? Am I cool with traveling the world and not working all the time? I'm cool with it.
But
right?
unpack the journey, Moneeka, because that's the piece. The journey may include your family. It may include Gino's kids working on the business.
Absolutely.
That's the thing where people they get messed up with like enjoying. Well, I'm not going to enjoy the journey. The journey is what you make it. That's the crazy thing about being an entrepreneur. So you can make the journey. And then if you do want more, maybe you bring other people on board and to get to that point, right?
Absolutely. So yes. So let's back up a little bit.
Yeah.
Being blissful during the journey. Understand what your values are. Understand what your priorities are. Understand why you're doing the business that you're doing. And remember that why is important today and it will be important through the entire journey. In other words, if you're doing this for your kids to give them a better life, spend time with your kids today. Don't assume that when you have $10 million after you've lost 10 years with them, that you're going to be okay with that.
10 years goes by quick.
You have to be so fast, right? You need to make sure that you're doing all of those things through the whole process. And then when you maybe reach that $10 million, whatever your goal is, reevaluate. Is getting more important? Is spending more time with the family more important? What is it, right? So you're going to reevaluate along the way, but don't assume that you're going to have everything you want when you reach that one goal and give everything up along the way. That's not blissful. That's huge sacrifice, and it's not necessary to create success.
So you know what's annoying about life? Another thing that's annoying about life is as you learn more, you do more, right? And I'll give you an example. I'm at a certain level right now where I thought, okay, everything's cool. I'm just gonna leave all the money to my kids. And I read I guess a book is from Garrett Gunderson. I forgot the title. How do the Rockefellers do it? Basically. So what Garrett Gunderson's doing, and I'm going to adopt this now because I never really thought about this. He's creating a trust for his family. So it's another layer. So this is another component to my why. So my why got even bigger because my why with Jake and Gino was always people, financial intelligence can change the world for the better. But now if I can include my kids into that and leave them a trust and leave that generation a legacy, and my kids leave a generation to their kids and their grandkids. So all of a sudden the money that I'm accumulating now goes to future generations. That's the crazy thing about life. You may not know where you want to go in 20 years from now, but as you're growing on your journey, your why, as you're growing yourself, your why is going to get better. It's going to get bigger. I don't want to say better, but it's going to definitely get bigger.
More
and
refined.
It's going to be more clearer. Exactly. So all of a sudden I'm making all this money right now, and I'm not really making the money right now for myself. I'm making it to leave a legacy and also to empower others and me to be able to be more charitable. And reading that book and learning all these other techniques is like, wow, now my why is getting bigger. I wish I had adopted the blissful earlier on 10, 12 years ago, as I was going through the journey, because as an achiever, you're always looking to get that next deal and that next deal. How do you do that, Moneeka? I mean, now I figured it out. I'm trying to fall in love with the process, not the goal, from James Clear's book of Atomic Habits. Fall in love with underwriting deals, fall in love with speaking to investors, fall in love with going to events, things that you need to do. Don't fall in love with the result, fall in love with the actions you need to take. Do you have any other tips or strategies that you do when falling in love, becoming blissful with what actions you're taking?
Yeah, that is so good. I believe that you should fall in love with the process and the goal, because they're both pieces of the same puzzle, right? And then you get to have another process. And like you say, you refine it, it gets better. Your goals get bigger. You can't perceive today who you're going to be on the other side of that. You get, like, every single conversation, every single deal, every single thing that we do expands us, makes us better, makes us smarter, makes us more capable, and gives us a better network, right? So that whole process is that's what expands you. I love that you just said all that, Gino. So the thing that I always say to people to focus on bliss is to really have a check-in with yourself around your business. I do it once a week. Some people do it once a month. Some people do it once a quarter. You pick what's best for you. But what you need to do is evaluate, is this business filling my core values? So first of all, you need to know what those core values are. That's not as simple as we think, right? Some people are like, oh, I want freedom. Well, freedom can mean
hours
a
on
lot
these
of
things.
Right, exactly, right.
And then there's customer service vision statements and on and on and on. So it's
that's right. But the values are the things that are inside of you that are going to run your entire life. Right. And so you need to reevaluate your business and your life against those core values frequently enough that if you're off track, you can pull yourself back on track. There are a lot of different ways to find bliss through the journey, but that is the single most important one. If you stay aligned with your core values, you'll be able to experience bliss no matter what else is going on in your business. Yes, tell me.
Moneeka, call me. I got you. So a classic example today of finding bliss. And for me personally, and I have to share this because it's clarity. When I'm clear on things and I I have full clarity, like, oh, there's a budget in place and we have to reverse engineer to hit that budget. When there's clarity on what the core values are and we hire and fire on these, when there's clarity on what the meeting rhythms are and we just have to show up, do the work, do it with passion, whatever the case may be, as an entrepreneur, we're the ones creating the world. We're the ones creating the environment. We're the ones setting the rules, setting everything in place. So when we can give ourselves clarity and structure, oh my, that is like such a blissful space, right? Because now we have certainty, we understand it. And so many times when we don't set that, we don't have the meeting rhythms, we don't have the roster in place, whatever it is, it's because we didn't do the work to give ourselves that bliss. And so a lot of times it's a ton of work on the front end, putting those systems, putting those structures in place, and then making it systemizable so the next person can come in and do it. That's me personally. So just a quick tip for everybody out there: get clear, set the things up, and then you can get that clarity to help you out. Because when I don't have clarity and I don't see what the back side of something looks like, that's when I'm like very like start short circuiting. We got to get it right. So, and I want to comment on Gino. I want to comment on Gino haunting his kids from the grave, because the beautiful thing about the trust is that you set it for the next 100 years, right? You set it for the next 200. G-Dad's still going to be playing the Godfather from the grave someday. And it's like, damn it, Dad, you could hit me, son.
Well, you know what it is? My fear was I give children this money within 2 generations. It's basically gone, right? But I want them to actually work for it. I want them to suffer a little bit like I did, so at least appreciate it, right? And then they give it to their children, and their children are going to suffer.
And there's no growth without pain, right?
That's right. So in the story, it's about the Rockefellers that still have this amazing amount of wealth, top couple hundred families in the world as far as net worth still. And the Vanderbilts were one of the richest families back in the late 1800s. And by 1946, they were completely broke because they lived lavish lifestyles and all that. And I obviously don't want that to happen to my children, because obviously you don't become a great person. You don't have any desire to live other than to spend money. I want my children, to actually have an impact on life, to actually enjoy life, to go towards their sole purpose. I don't want money to stop them. I want money to be a tool. I want them to see money be a tool, but I want them to be able to, I want them to be able to, say, okay, I want to start a business. let me take some money out of that trust. I want to do or I want to buy my first home. Let me take some money out. And I just want to structure it in a way that it's not wasteful. And that we can continue to perpetuate.
Pour some gasoline on their inner fire and that inner soul and let it,
So Monique, give me a couple of tips or a couple of strategies on, I like the core values, right? How can somebody start today by living a blissful life? What's the next thing that they should do after they stop listening to this podcast? What should they start doing right after this podcast is over?
I would go to blissfulinvestor.com /values and figure out what your values are. Right? That's the very first thing, because Jake, you just said,
clarity.
Clarity, my gosh, because if you don't have clarity, you're like all over the place. You're like,
drop the mic, show's over.
So bad, right? So yes, do that first. Get really clear on your core values. Now, here's the other thing, Jake, that you said is you got to put in a lot of work on the front end. Don't skimp on that. Because if you don't do the work on the front end, you're doing the work the rest of your life to pay for it. Right? You do the work on the front end. Now, when I talk about I spend 5 to 10 hours a month to build my multi-million-dollar business, it wasn't like that in the beginning. I might have spent 10 hours a week, right? Maybe for the first 3, 4, 5 months, because I was setting up my systems. I was setting up my goals. I was really thinking inside about what's going to work for me. I do my whole business backwards. I choose my tenant first before I choose before I buy a property. But I had to create all of that and the systems that was going to make that work, right? And then I have to reevaluate that and fix it over time. But the front end is where it all begins. And that all begins with who you are. What are your values? What are your goals?
Think about what Dalio said about the well-oiled machine. If you're going to build a car right now, it's going to take you a long time to build that car. But once that car is built, you're going to oil it. You're going to make sure the tires have air in it at times. You're going to clean it every once in a while. Once that machine is built, you want to keep a well-oiled machine. And that's exactly what Moneeka's talking about there.
Love that.
Exactly.
So Moneeka,
was that what you were looking for, Gino?
No, it was. Yeah. I want to ask you, what made you want to start the Real Estate Investing Podcast for Women?
Oh, that's a good.
Yeah, why not for us guys? Men need another real estate podcast, right? There's only like 6 million of them out there. Come on.
Do you actually want to hear this story? Can I tell you the whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay. When I was 16, I was in India as a foreign exchange student. I was born here in the United States. So this was like my very first experience as kind of a young adult woman in India. A big thing in India for women is the whole thing about a woman is you just get her married. That's the only goal anybody has for a woman. And so there's this whole tradition and culture around that. What I noticed was how badly women were being treated there, especially as an American woman. It was really, really obvious to me. And women were like getting married off when they were 7, 12, 13. Domestic violence was normal, wasn't even talked about. It was like, whatever, that's what men do to women and women deserve it. When men die, women are thrown on the cremation pyre to burn with him.
Is this still like this?
That was 30 years ago. I just dated myself. That was 30 years ago. And still, this happens in a lot of the
I try not to leave my house, so just be transparent.
Right. Especially now.
It's always been that way.
Things are definitely changing, but there's thousands of years of tradition around this, right? So they're changing, especially in the cities. You're seeing dramatic change. But back then, that's how things were kind of done. And I was horrified and traumatized. I also knew that I, Moneeka Sawyer, could not continue down that path as an Indian woman. And so I determined really early on that I was going to empower women to find their freedom so that they weren't stuck in situations like that. So that began my journey. Now, fast forward, I graduated from college and I'm thinking about my own future. My mom and dad are trying to marry me off. And here's my thing. There is no way I was going to be married off to somebody I didn't love. I was going to marry who I wanted, when I wanted, and how I wanted. And the only way that I could do that was to be financially free. I needed to be able to take care of myself so that I didn't need anybody else to take care of me. And I could make choices based on my desires and my goals and my dreams rather than on any kind of fear or need. So that's
it's crazy we're talking about this right now. Like, this is nuts because, like, I have a very, I don't want to say sheltered life, but I don't really, kind of hang out with the family and this, that, and the other thing. And I see, Gino and I were big fans of the show Vikings. Okay. The Vikings back in the day, and they're talking about stuff like this, but this is like what, 1000 AD?
That was the 9th century.
Yeah. Like 900 AD or something like this.
Yes.
And it's like, I didn't even know, like I appreciate sharing this because I had no idea that this was going on in India, even as recently as 30 years ago.
Well, let me tell you, I mean, Italy is not that much different 30 years ago. It was definitely a male-dominated society. I remember when I had my first child born 20 years ago, they're like, oh, it's a girl. Second one, oh, it's a boy. And like, let's stop the parade. And I was like, it was really weird. It was really something that we as Americans really, I mean.
Oh, you got a girl. Boy,
yes,
boy.
Yes. And it's that you're carrying the name. And I mean, also, my parents were farmers. They needed boys to work on the farm. That was the other situation that when you look back at it, I mean, it's not just black and white the way we're laying it out here. It was just the reality. It was a tough life back 50, 60 years ago.
It's the way these things happen. All of this tradition happens because there's a need in the society or the culture, and they create systems to support those needs. You're totally right, Gino. And there were a lot of good reasons for why they did this in India, and we don't need to go into all of that. Sure. But here's the truth. They're doing it. And I was not going to be there. I was not going to be that woman. And so I began my journey to financial freedom. And I have been committed since I was 16 to supporting women. So when it was time for me to start teaching and start my podcast and really get out there, I knew that I wanted that same freedom for women that I expected for myself.
Strong why?
I knew how to. Exactly.
You had a strong why.
Exactly. So that's why real estate for women.
And not for trading. We're not trading women here. This is real estate for women, right? That's like, I'm making a joke in light of it, but that's like crazy. Like when you said that, I was like, how many years ago are we talking? Like that's like wild to me. But yeah.
It's a little bit shocking, and I don't often tell this story because it's kind of a conversation stopper. So
we'll keep it going. Gino, crank it back up, man.
Well, let me see where I can go next with this. Hold on one second. I think that the podcast space is great. What is your message to women? Let's break that down, because I'll give you our example. When we started in 2017, our first live event was probably 85% men, 15% women.
I would say even maybe less.
No,
like maybe like 90.
MM1, sorry, 90-10. MM2 was probably 70-30. And MM3 last year in October of 2019 was probably, say, 60-40, 60 men, 40 women. So the women in multifamily and in real estate, because traditionally women dominate the real estate space on the residential side, not as much on the commercial side, but now they're getting more into the lending aspect of it, more into the multifamily and raising capital. So maybe 65-35 or 60-40. So we've definitely seen a big progression of women coming into the space, which is awesome. What is your message to women on the podcast?
That we can do it. I think women are real estate phobic in a lot of cases. They feel like they can't do it, right?
Maybe commercial real estate phobic.
Yeah. Well, but I think they're even residential, because I see a lot of it too. Like even in single families, when you
for the investing side, you're saying
agents. That's exactly right. It's agents. It's a lot more women. Women are very successful, but so there's basically what an agent is, and planning for your future, which is what investing. And I think that women aren't taught at that whole like next level. They're like, get a job, save some money, like that, right? And we don't have the resources or the connections necessarily to get that kind of education or have those conversations. Right. So really my podcast is to open the conversation. It's to have conversations that women don't know they should be having, or if they do know they should be having, they don't have resources of where to have them. Right. I also want women to really understand that you can have the whole blissful life thing. I want people, men and women, but I focus on women, about really creating a holistic approach to real estate. So what's your mindset? What's your heart set? What's your life dreams? And how are you going to invest? All of those things are included so that they have a well-rounded, blissful approach that they can sustain over the long term to create long-term wealth.
What attracted you to real estate? I mean, we jumped in this and we didn't even get your background story. We jumped from 16 years to the current, and we just missed that whole big swath. I think you went to college, and after that,
I did.
So what got you interested in real estate?
I've got into real estate kicking and screaming, actually. So my parents came to this country from India with $200 in their pocket as newlyweds arranged marriage. And they found out that they realized that the golden ticket to wealth in the United States was real estate. So when I was born, their very first child, they started investing in real estate so they could give me the life that they wanted to give me, right? They came to this amazing country. So we grew up, and then 15 years later, Mom and Dad pay for my college education through real estate. They did the same thing for my sisters. They paid for our weddings. So I really saw how amazing real estate could be and what it could do for you financially, right? I also saw my dad getting calls at 2:00 in the morning from tenants, having rat problems, toilet problems, someone wants them to change a light bulb, right? Like mortgage problems, all of this stuff. So I saw my dad experiencing a lot of stress. So now I graduate from college. I graduated during a recession. I couldn't find a job, completely freaked out about money. And I remember one night I was sitting at the kitchen table with my dad, and I was telling him how stressed I was and how was I going to survive. And I did not want to do real estate. Absolutely no way, no thank you. And he was like, why? And I said, because it's so stressful. And he said to me something that night that changed my entire life. He said, Moneeka, everybody has fear and everybody has stress and everybody has money problems. Do you want poor people money problems or do you want rich people money problems?
Did he really say that? That sounds like that's power right there. He just dropped the hammer on you.
He totally did.
Wow.
He totally did. Yeah, it was amazing. And that changed everything, right? That's when I decided, okay, I'm going to do this. But here was the thing. Here was a caveat. I was not going to have all those problems, right? We were going to do it differently than the way my dad
Better systems than dad.
Right? He's a great mentor, but I'm 2.0.
Wow.
Right.
So
that's how I started.
From this conversation, Italians and Indians are very alike, because my mom basically told me the same thing. You can either be poor and have those problems, or you could be rich and wealthy and have a lot of property and have property problems. So when I heard that, I said, yeah, I like the second one, because, it's just like, it's amazing how very similar the immigrant mentality, right? That immigrant mentality is so different. There's a hunger to wanting to get it done. And it's for us, the fear, like I said, is to translate that into my children and to make sure that they have their why and their hunger. So that's really important for me to be able to translate into that. So then when you graduate college, what was your first deal? What did that first deal look like for you in real estate?
So the very first thing that I did, this is really sort of traditional, not very exciting, right? We bought our very first home, our primary residence. So that was the first thing that we did. We put 3% down when my husband and I got married. We took all of our money from our gifts. We asked for money. We took every single dime that we could, and we bought our primary residence. And then from there, as it appreciated, I took out money. I bought more houses. We bought our next primary residence. I always take an equity line on my places, my primary residences, and then I use those to grow my portfolio. But it's a really simple, easy, intuitive strategy. It's not like sexy and exciting, but hey, it retired me in 15 years. That's pretty sexy and exciting, but it was easy, right? It was just very intuitive.
So within 15, okay. What does retirement look like to you? Because obviously you're probably working harder now than you were when you were working. So what does that look like to you now?
Actually, I'm not working harder now.
Oh,
I traveled. Well, my husband and I backpacked around the world. We went and lived in France for 1.5 years. We live in our dream home. I'm doing the business that I love the most, which is really empowering women. I get to speak. I get to do my podcast. I've got the deep pocket so that I can pay for all of these things, whether they're making money or not. So it's really about doing the things that I'm impassioned about. And then you talk about the honeybee thing, right? I do a lot of charity work. I've sponsored a school in India to help educate girls and empower women that way. So I'm involved in a lot of different stuff now. I get more time with my aging parents. My dad's 90, my mom's 84, right? So I get time with them. I get time with my nephew. So really, Now it's not that I don't want to work, right? I think that for an achiever, you can't not work. Your brain feels really, really numb if you're doing that. Mm-hmm. But I can work on the things that are important to me rather than chasing the dollar. The dollar's there. It's mm-hmm. taken care of.
Mm-hmm. So before we get to the personal growth questions, the last question is, I want to get into real estate. Where's the best place for somebody starting out to get into real estate? I like the 3% down. That's a great tip. Any other strategies to share with listeners?
So there are a lot of people that disagree with me on that, Gino. Mm-hmm. But I do say own your primary residence mm-hmm. first. Mm-hmm. Put your 3% down. Get in, no matter when.
It could be a duplex, right?
Get in. It could be a duplex. It could be a quad, right? But make sure that where you're living, you're not paying for somebody else's wealth. You're paying mm-hmm. for your own. Mm-hmm. And I know there are a lot of people that are like, whatever, don't do that. But that's the way I started. That's the way many multimillionaires in real estate started. Make sure you're not paying somebody else rent. Mm-hmm. That's the place that I would say, like, beyond anything else, start there.
Mm-hmm. And
we'll meet them on the house hack.
Yeah. And Jake, before we go to the break,
you could Airbnb it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Before we go to break, it's important because it's not a black and white kind of question. I feel sort of the same way Moneeka does. Owning your home is a luxury, right? But it's also a place of stability. It's a place where you're going to have memories. So sometimes you can't put a monetary value in saying, hey, I could probably do better renting. You have stability when you own your own home. You're not going to be evicted. You're not going to have to move out because the landlord is not going to renew you. Your mortgage is not going up. You can start a family. So there's so many pros to it that I think, especially with someone, I have a large family, so I can't go rent. So there's a lot to that. I think, like what Moneeka was talking about, what are your values?
Yeah, what's important to you?
Yeah, exactly. If you're thinking about going into a neighborhood and becoming part of that neighborhood and you want to grow in that neighborhood, great. But if you're going to be bouncing around every 6 months, maybe not buy a house. So really see what your values are and see if they align with that strategy. Because I agree with you. I mean, like, if you look at wealth in this country, and you can look at the numbers, a lot of people generate wealth through the equity in their homes. And that's an amazing mm-hmm. component. When you have an appreciation, people can roll that equity out, pull that equity out, like you said, put it somewhere else or utilize it. So, I mean, it's a great strategy, I think.
And there's no better, remedy for stress and anxiety mm-hmm. than to go out and clear brush and cut trees on a Saturday in your own backyard. I'm just saying, it's proven. I've been my own test pilot. So, all right, gang, let's take a quick time out to hear from our sponsors.
Are you looking for ways to improve your life?
Here at Jake and Gino, our mission is to empower students through financial education and the vehicle of multifamily investing.
Yes, Jake. We agree that a person with financial intelligence can change the world for the better.
We've created our proprietary 3-step framework, buy right, manage right, and finance right, that we teach to our community. This framework, along with education, our one-on-one mentorship, on-site boot camps, and the amazing community, has propelled our students to massive success.
We've all been there. We've had so many students that have been able to shift their mindset, overcome limiting beliefs, and set a clear path to achieve their goals. Whether you're currently fixing and flipping, wholesaling, or buying single-family rentals, and you know that multifamily investing is the right vehicle for you, I encourage you to visit jakeandgino.com/apply to schedule your complimentary consultation with our team. And I want to let you know this isn't a high-pressure sales call. It's really just a discovery call to get to know each other better and see if we're a good fit for working together. And if for any reason we're not a good fit, our team has tons of resources we will share with you to help you along your journey.
If you're ready to stop spinning your wheels, go to jakeandgino.com/apply and schedule your call now. All right, we are back. Let's talk. Gino's talking habits. James Clear, what is your best habit for success? Something that, you pop out of bed in the morning, you do this day in, day out, and it leads to the bliss. Like, maybe you go out on Saturday and you cut trees down. I don't know, maybe, but just what you doing over there, Moneeka?
So for me, it's all about the morning routine. So talk about jumping out of bed. I don't jump out of bed. The very first thing I do when my alarm goes off is I do a gratitude practice, right?
I think I hit snooze.
I do. Actually, I do. I hit snooze, and then
because I can, damn it.
That's why we do what we do, right? You hit snooze, And during that 9 minutes that it is for me, I do a gratitude practice and I do a meditation. I can do that with my mind closed. I'm still kind of in the twilight zone, so it has a huge impact, right? I get up, I get ready, and then I go for a walk with my dog. I have my coffee with my husband. We have some FaceTime. Then I do some motivational stuff in the morning. Like I have a whole like toolkit of either I might read some quotes or I might read something motivational. I might look at something on YouTube, right? I pick something in my little list and I do that. And then I head out to my day. So no email before I start my work day, no Facebook, no social media, nothing, but just me, my family, and my time.
Any Tumo in there? Tumo breathing? No, just kind of like
that is I've never heard that term. I love that. Yes, of course. There's breathing happens in the gratitude practice. So yeah, definitely. And also my walking.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Little Steve Jobs action there, right? Yeah. What about when you started out? Obviously, it's your show. We're here for you. Tell us.
Okay, I was just going to say one more thing about that. Everybody who's listening, you do have a morning routine. Just make sure that it's intentional, right? If you're like scrambling about, your morning routine is to jump out of bed at the very last minute and scramble about and then run to your car and get stuck in traffic, whatever, right? If that's your morning routine, it's still a morning routine. So what I'm trying to say here is that make sure that you've set yourself up for success, having an intentional morning routine.
Think about that. you start out like a chicken with your head cut off, and you're running around with like stress because you're late and you forgot to brush your teeth, and now the next time you go, you're afraid to speak to somebody, and you're looking for the gun. Like you're starting the day out so far behind by doing that. And if you just tweaked it and you were prepared and organized from the gate, that's going to snowball in the right direction, instead of going down a road of stress right out of the gates. So I there's a lot of power behind that. And I'm sure that I hope we impact, one person in the show and that if they change one thing, they stop being like the crazy person in the morning, because that would freak me out. We're all different. You don't have to do it my way, but I'm just saying. So, okay. Going back, you talk about like bliss and not doing it the way your dad did with the light bulbs and everything, but nobody's perfect, right? So starting out, I'm sure you made your mistakes and there was things that you could have done differently. And we're all about shortening folks' learning curve. Everybody, that's in this community, we're all trying to get better with our systems and go from 0 to 1,000 quicker. So what is something you could have done differently starting out that you can share with the folks that will help them, besides making sure you get up and you're not crazy and stressful, right? We don't want
Actually, that happened later.
Okay.
It's a developed skill. Yeah. For me, the biggest mistake was not that my dad was my mentor. He was fantastic, but that I took on his entire mindset. So dad's mindset was, you got to do what it takes, whatever it takes, to create wealth and to be stable. Right? That was the immigrant mindset. And so I took that on, whatever it takes. And I have to pay my dues, and, things go wrong and you just have to muscle through it. Right. So I took on that.
I'm kind of living that right now.
Right? Yeah. But if I had really cued into my own core values and realized that my mindset is everything, I could have started from this place of, okay, I'm going to create systems. I'm going to take notes on what worked and what didn't work, what caused me stress, what didn't cause me stress. I could have started from the very beginning, creating those systems, not just the real estate systems, not just figuring out the numbers, not just that, but the system of how I wanted to run my life. And I found out later, like after my first nightmare property, right, where I never wanted to do this again, when I got back in, that's what I did, is I prioritized me and what was going to make me happy. And I created a whole series of systems based on just experiencing joy. Who does that? Right? But I did that. And that's how it changed the way that I was doing business, and it's created over time the way that I do business now. Now, certainly it was not perfect. I still have lots of challenges even today, but I have my systems. I can count on those systems. And when things go wrong, I've got my Bliss strategies so that challenges don't stress me out. I just kind of roll with it. Right.
And let's be honest, that property that gave you so much pain, you learn from that, and you know that, okay, it was a 1928 property. I'm not buying that vintage ever again. Or it was in this, type of neighborhood. I'm not buying that. So you set your systems up based on the life experience. And sometimes we got to go through those. But if we come out better and we learn from it, that's why the bliss comes in after the fact, because it was the wrong asset that we chose to bring into our lives, and we can avoid that asset in the future. That's a huge component of it. So that's great advice.
And the mindset, right? We brought in the asset. I was also running my business with a particular mindset.
Yeah.
So that taught me that the asset wasn't working. I wasn't working. Moneeka needed to change the way she was thinking about this for this to be a long-term solution for my life.
Take that responsibility. Love it. Give us a book that you've read recently in the last few years that will benefit everyone out there.
I love Gary Keller's The One Thing. I think that in my space right now, because I have so much freedom, it's really easy to get distracted, right? There's, especially in real estate, there's like the shiny object syndrome, right? Oh, I could do syndication. Oh, I could do multifamily. Oh, I could do, I could do all this stuff, right?
Ain't that the truth?
I think for me, I always tell people there are a million ways to make $1 million in real estate, but the way to actually make the million is to pick one. And that's why I love The One Thing, is because it really helps me to stay focused on what is that one thing I can do that's going to move the needle forward for me in this one business that I've chosen to be really successful at.
My buddy, the G-Dad over there, he strongly agrees with you, and he calls it staying in your lane. So
yes,
yeah, the G-Father.
Exactly.
Any projects you have going on right now that you're excited about that you want to share with everyone?
I've got a TV show that's going, and we're moving along with that. I've got a couple of books. I'm looking at another book. Nothing really right now that I'm super moving forward towards, but I will say that right now it's really about really getting my resources out there so that more people can be empowered by them.
Hey, you have the personality for it. We would definitely tune in. So looking forward to that one. And Moneeka, what's the best way for folks to get a hold of you?
Just go to blissfulinvestor.com. Everything's there. Books, my podcast, everything that I'm doing is there. blissfulinvestor.com. And there's a download there for your listeners also, if they're interested.
Very cool. G-Dad, take us home here. So
16-year-old Moneeka Sawyer goes to India. Probably a wonderful trip, but she realizes that I don't like the way things are here. I want to change the world. I want to be able to empower women. So she comes back to the U.S. And I mean, she's really lucky because she's got two great parents, hardworking parents. They're her mentors. They've taught her everything. And I think what Moneeka said was she was adopting her dad's mindset, which was very similar to what was happening to me. And when she started realizing what her values are, what her core values are, and what her mission statement was, and what she wanted to get out of life, I think that's when things changed. And I think, getting married, wanting to become financially free, and not having to get married because she needed to rely on somebody else was one of her guiding, I think I would call it a North Star, almost like one of her values. And going through that whole process and, taking 15 years to get to that point to say, okay, now I can retire. I can go and, live overseas for a year. I can do what I want. I can do when I want. And now all of a sudden I can start a podcast, for women only. And I can start writing books and start writing resources. That's what financial freedom can do for you. It can really empower you. It can really set you from a place of scarcity to a place of abundance. So it's an amazing place where if somebody becomes intentional, and it just doesn't happen overnight, everybody, this is not a get rich quick scheme. This takes years. It doesn't have to take 15 years. It could take 5, 3, but you really have to start out. You really have to become clear, like Jake said. And I think ultimately the last thing, Jake, I'll say is you really need to focus on what your why is. Moneeka really,
strong why,
really
why.
Clearly what her why was. And so when you're, shut this podcast off and you're going about your day, just reflect back on it, get some clarity in your life. And what is your why?
Boom shaka laka. Moneeka, thank you so much. Love the energy, love the passion, and can't wait for that TV show to come out.
Thanks, Moneeka.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.